Hi, my name is Michaela Sowers, and this is my final presentation for educating exceptional students. Okay, so over the course of the semester, we went over several different exceptionalities that could happen in the classroom, and these are all of them. So there's learning disabilities, communication disorders, emotional and behavioral disorders, attention deficit hyperactivity disorders, intellectual disabilities, um, autism, traumatic brain injuries, hearing loss, visual impairments, and then gifted and talented students. The first one is learning disabilities, the characteristics, and then the UDL strategies to utilize in the classroom. We broke the characteristics down into three different categories. So there's academic, memory, and then emotional and social. And then the emotional and social is the high levels of anxiety, symptoms of depression, and these kiddos are more likely to act out. And then you have the memory. This affects working memory, short-term memory, and then long-term memory. And the working memory is information that is stored in your brain to help carry out a task. Short-term memory is obviously information that is only stored in your brain for obviously a short amount of time. And then long-term memory is the ability to retain large quantities of information at a time, obviously from years past, months past, or a couple days. And then these students struggle with reading fluency, academic achievement, word identification, fact retrieval, and then they struggle with procedural problems. So obviously, word problems in math is a big thing for them. So then you have the UDL instructional strategies, and then this is incorporating instruction, graphic organizers, schedules, and then I also had constant time delays, so breaks. The incorporating instruction is great for little kids because it's reminding them of what they need to do and what they still have to get done. So just reminding them to stay on task. Graphic organizers keep all ages of kids organized, and it helps them show what they need to do and what needs to be done, obviously. And then there's schedules, especially in elementary school, you go from class to class for a different subject, and this is beneficial for teachers so that their students know what's going on, and the students have an idea and they can grasp how the day is going to go. So, no meltdowns. Communication disorders, we broke these down into two. There's articulation disorders and language impairments. And then the articulation disorders are substitutions, stutters, emissions, distortions, and then cultural differences. I don't know what that says, disorders, I'm so sorry. That would be if one of your students at home speaks Spanish and they come to school and they obviously speak English, they might have a hard time distinguishing between the two languages, what one word means in one of them, the other one means in another one, or how to say something. Sometimes that becomes a barrier and like it blocks out what they need to say. And then you have language impairments. With these, you have the phonology, the morphology, and then the syntax. And the phonology is unable to discriminate between differences in speech sounds. The morphology, they have a problem using a structure of words to get information. And then syntax is involving the word order. This is such as ordering words in a manner that does not have meaning. So the way they might structure a sentence might make sense to them, but when they say it out loud, it doesn't make sense to us. And the UDL for communication disorders are blending words, graphic organizers, and then text to speech and focused contrast. Okay, ADHD or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is broken into three groups: inattentive, hyperactivity, and then combined. And inattentive, they struggle with paying attention in class, to detail, organization, keeping track of necessary items, and then they have a hard time avoiding distractions. And then hyperactivity, they struggle with staying seated, talking excessively, waiting for a turn, and then keeping hands or feet staying still. And then the combined, they have academic challenges and social challenges. And then the UDL for the ADHD, the inattentive, they have medication. This is obviously a parent's Um, say teachers don't have any say in this, and then there's behavior management, and then parent training, and you can move them closer to this teacher, and then also having a schedule to tell them again what is going on and what the day looks like, and then shorter lessons, so allowing for more breaks, especially if they are restless and things like that. And then hyperactivity, you have a flexible seating. You don't really need to be super strict on where they sit as long as they are doing their work. And then having activities, instead of doing worksheets by them, like as an individual, they can do worksheets with partners, or they can you can turn it into a whole class activity to make it a lot more enjoyable for students again that have ADHD. They don't want to sit in their chairs the whole class time. They'd rather do something. And then there's foam, paint pads, stress balls, slimes, things like that. Things for them to fidget with while you, as a teacher, are teaching a lesson, or while they might be doing a worksheet. Next, we have emotional behavioral disorders. Emotional is the inability to learn that cannot be explained by intellectual, sensory, or health factors. It's the inability to build or maintain friendships and relationships, and excessive fear or worry, anxiety. These students are often moody, so they have some sort of bipolar or depression, and they are very defiant. And then behavioral, they are disruptive, aggressive, and they tend to withdraw. And the UDL for this is bond with the student. You want them to know that they have someone on their side and that they can come talk to. And then social emotional learning, which social emotional learning is just understanding um, um, the way, like understanding empathy for others, maintaining cooperative relationships, and just also knowing like your emotions and just things like that. So it really helps when building relationships. Boundaries, obviously, some kids do not know boundaries, especially young children. So teaching children boundaries becomes very good when they are wanting to build friendships and maintain these relationships, especially in the classroom. And then you can also refer a family to counseling. And then next is autism. Um, we broke these down into two. It's social communication impairments, and then the repetitive restricted behaviors and interests. The social communication, they have more challenges in understanding daily social situations. They need more processing time, and they tend to withdraw. And then the repetitive, they're performing the same act over and over again. They're uttering the same phrase. They're insisting on the same routine, and then obsessing on a favorite topic. And the UDL for this would be the social communication would be promoting friendships. You could also group them together with another student in the class who might like the same sports teams, or if they do non-academic activities outside of the classroom together as clubs, sports, plays, things like that, you could group them together since they have a common interest. And they're repetitive. You could have a schedule. You could also, if you're kind of like a teacher who has, like, you really just want your students to be engaged, things like that, you could be nice and do a lesson plan over a favorite topic. Say that the student really loves superheroes. You could do one topic over one of your lessons over superheroes so that they are really engaged in that course material. And then you could also let them pick books over that topic and things like that. And then there's intellectual disabilities. The characteristics are below average intelligence. They struggle with memory. So again, short term, long term, and then the working memory. They have a hard time paying attention, and then they have a hard time generalizing knowledge. And the UDL learning strategies for this are allow more time on assignments, take breaks every so often, especially if they do struggle with memory. You don't want to pile so much things on them. And then use real life situations. So since they have a hard time generalizing, if you're doing a lesson over money and cents, you could make it say that you're at the movie theater, and then you could tie it with that. They can see the correlation so that they can generalize the information like that. Next is a traumatic brain injury. They have similar characteristics of students with learning disabilities. They have problems with communication disorders, emotional and behavior disorders, and then intellectual disabilities. Allow for the UDL strategies, allow for more breaks, um, allow for more breaks, take time, um, allow for more time on classwork and tests, repeat the classwork or the class material in a multitude of ways just so that you are making sure that they are understanding what they are learning. Provide notes for them so that they don't have to worry about speeding through the notes and then not retaining any information from the lesson that you have just taught them. And then also allow for a peer to help with classwork and assignments. Understanding students with hearing loss. These students have academic problems in speaking, reading, and writing. And the UDL learning strategies, you can move the student to the front of the classroom, teach in a way that the student can read your lips. You can wear a microphone so that the one student can hear you a little better. It would go into their cochlear implants, which is their hearing aids. And then provide notes for the students to follow along. One thing that I also thought about was learning sign language if the student is completely deaf. This way you could talk to them, like interact with them in a way that's comfortable and that the student is used to, so that they don't have to learn something else, or that they don't have to feel like the odd one out. And then there's the visual impairments, and these are the characteristics. There's low vision, so these individuals can read print. They might rely on optical aids such as magnifying lenses. These individuals may or may not be legally blind. And then there's functionally blind, and then these individuals technically use Braille, which is the bumps on the flat surface. That's how they read. For reading and writing. They may also rely on their ability to use functional vision for other tasks. And then there is totally blind. So these people, they don't really receive any meaningful input through their visual sense. And then the UDL learning strategies, you can verbalize everything that is written on the board or shown on the projector. You could use appropriate 3D models in class activities, and then you can communicate effectively with the student and also their IEP team, the student improvement team, I'm sorry, as what the students' needs are. And then there's gifted and talented students. This is their characteristics. They are creative and they have leadership ability, visual or performing, artsy, high general intellect, and the UDL learning strategies for this are implementing instructions based on their skills. So since they are mostly higher up than their other peers, you don't really want to, not dumb things down, but you don't really want to go below what they are achieving at. So you can also allow students to read and select high interest books slightly above their current reading level, just to go out and above what they're normally used to, and then compact the curriculum. In compact the curriculum, you can identify what the student has already mastered, and then only providing instructions on what the student doesn't know. And then it's the most difficult first strategy. So instead of doing all of these problems on the activity or a task, students complete the most difficult ones on there, and then whenever they are finished, or if they do finish, they just go on to the next list of activities on that task. And that's all that I have for this PowerPoint. And if you have any following questions, go ahead and email me. But I had a great time in class, and this class was actually very eye-opening for me, especially being a teacher, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you.